We'll talk about the defence and a couple of injuries in that position. But let's go through and pick our teams then, just to finish. Doidie, I'll start with you. Obviously, we know Alisson will be in goal. At the back four, you mentioned Milner before. That's an interesting one. The centre-back's interesting as well. I know there's been a couple of suggestions in certain places about possibly bringing in a Phillips or even a Fabinho at centre-back. What are you going to do with your back four?
Well, I'm not having Fabinho at centre-back. No chance. I mean, I can understand where people are coming from. It can help build his confidence to a degree. He doesn't have to go running around, and it's a set position. But what happens if straight away concedes a goal? It's like, oh, God, brilliant. But I do think the two calls are who's going to play right back, because Trent obviously hasn't had the best of times. Only the last couple of games. I think he's another one who, when they came back from the World Cup, I actually thought he was one of Liverpool's better players. Certainly in terms of his
good against
attitude.
Leicester, wasn't he?
Yeah, certainly in terms of his attitude. And funny enough, that's the one thing that got questioned when he got subbed against Brighton, because he wasn't too happy. But then, when a player's ever happy when they get subbed? Players should never be happy when they get subbed, unless they've had an absolute nightmare and they've been up against a player who's completely exposed them, and they're just quite glad to get off. But then they're unhappy for another reason. I don't think that was the case with Trent. I just think he wanted to be on. Milner did well when he came on, but that was the Brighton game, and Milner didn't get on. And did he get on against Wolves? I was there. I should know this. I don't think he did he? No.
I don't think so.
So you have to weigh up the fact that Liverpool have got an awful lot of the ball. So if it had been at Goodison, you'd be thinking, well, maybe Milner, but I think Trent will play right back. Robertson left back. Centre backs, I'm definitely having Nat Phillips in. Definitely having him in. I don't care whether anyone's injured or not. I do think on merit, I think either Matip or Gomez could get dropped, because they're just nowhere near good enough at the moment. Maybe that's something that they need. And going back to personalities, Nat Phillips, is he the greatest player on Liverpool's books? No. Because if he was, he would be playing all the time. But he's got one of the best attitudes. Every single time he's come in, he's never let them down. He gets on with it. It's just the way that there's a reason why he's still there, apart from the fact that every time he's about to leave, a centre-back gets injured. There's a reason why he's still at Liverpool. And if he's there, they may as well use him. Liverpool have been struggling at set pieces, struggling with dealing with balls early, and they haven't, as we mentioned before, had a leader at centre-back. Phillips is a leader in a different way, and he's certainly good at heading the ball and clearing it. We've seen that when he was in the team second half of the 2021 season. And Everton are going to look to utilise set pieces. We know what Sean Dyche does as a manager. He scored the winner against Arsenal from a corner. That's when he got a lot of the joy against Arsenal. So Phillips plays, then you're looking at who would you have alongside him. And there's a very strong case to drop them both, and play no one else there. But I'd probably say Gomez, purely because he's the quicker of him and Matip, and Phillips, if he's got one fault, it's not a fault but a shortcoming, is that he's not the quickest. So I do think Gomez, Phillips, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold.
Interesting. I am going to stick with Gomez and Matip, because I think that one of them is going to have to come into some sort of form over the next few weeks. There's some big games. I'd be a little bit worried if Nat Phillips was in, for example, in the Champions League or maybe Newcastle away and that sort of thing. I do think they've got to stick with them just to sort of play them into some sort of form. Do you want to come back in on that, or shall I go across to Rich?
No, I think I've said what needs to be said. I probably wouldn't have a problem with Phillips playing at Newcastle either, to be honest, although it all depends on, in this team that probably won't get picked anyway, how he does against Everton.
Rich, which way are you going to
go? I've crossed a few names out on this sheet since we started and put a few back in, and I'm happy to say that I'm chronically indecisive on this. Doyle has sort of sold Phillips to me quite well there, to be honest with you, and I do like Nat Phillips. I just what kind of nags me is the fact that he could have left last month, and now we're talking about him starting the game. That's how quickly things have changed in football. But Matip and Gomez should be performing far better than they are. You know what I mean? These are genuine contenders to play alongside Virgil van Dijk every week as starting players in the team, and yet if Van Dijk and Kanate were fit, they'd both be on the bench, wouldn't they? I think that is off based on the recent dire performances. But the other thing is, we'll find out a little bit more about this later at the time of this podcast being recorded. Sean Dyche hasn't yet done his press conference, so we're not quite sure on the situation with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I've got a feeling he's not going to play, but he obviously he's had a scan this week. If he was playing, I'd be more inclined to have Phillips in there to try and deal with that threat. And if he's not there, they're not quite as potent in that area, I don't think. That said, I do think they are still going to try and get balls in from wide areas, aren't they, whether they've got Calvert-Lewin or not. And that's probably enough just to tip me into putting Phillips in. And there's not much to choose between the other two, but I would probably leave Gomez out purely because I'm just more of a fan of Matip than Gomez overall, to be honest with you. But that's one issue taken care of. I've got Andy Rabbo at left back. I'll stick with that. I'm looking for characters in this side, and I'm trying to find a spot for James Milner because I think he has a role to play in this game. And if it's not in midfield, it's at right back. And I think he will definitely play, and I think he may start. And I think he may start at right back. So I wouldn't say I'm totally easy with that. In a normal circumstance, Everton at home, you'd want Trent on. Whipping balls in from that side and scoring goals. But I'm just so desperate to get some sort of authority back in this Liverpool team that I feel like he needs to play. So I'm going to go with another change Liverpool back four yet again of Milner, Matip, Phillips and Robertson.
It's interesting you mentioned there the Calvert-Lewin thing and Phillips in terms of the aerial thing. I was thinking of it the other way around, that if Calvert-Lewin did play, I'd be a little bit more worried about that threat in behind, the pace and the ball over the top. But I suppose you could argue it both ways, couldn't you? But let's move on to the midfield then, Doyle. We've spoken a little bit around Henderson and a couple of these players. Which three players are you going to go for in that position?
Well, he's going to have to play one of Fabinho or Henderson, so he'll probably play Henderson, given the fact that Fabinho's, I mean, we'll come back to him at another podcast. I think the problem you got with that is that you got question marks over Thiago, and Keita's kind of dropped off a little bit. I thought he did all right when he first came into the team. So if you're playing Henderson, where are you playing him? Because if you're playing Stefan, where's he playing? So you see what I mean? So you've got the third midfielder who there's an awful lot of players to choose from. Let's just assume that Thiago doesn't make it. If Thiago makes it, he plays. So if Thiago's fit, I think it'll be Thiago, Henderson and Stefan. If he isn't fit, then there's an interesting call to make, because while Milner, yeah, I understand why you want to get Milner in the team, but if you've got Milner and you've got Henderson in midfield, it's not exactly the most mobile, purely on age, right? Although you wouldn't expect both the pair of them to last a full 90 minutes, one of them maybe. Right, so Milner might be someone who comes off the bench for about half an hour at the end. Then you've got someone like Curtis Jones, who loves playing in this game. He scored a winner in the past, and he spoke. Well, there were some quotes over the week saying that, you know, it's funny how his targets were at the start of the season was like, yeah, play some games and score some goals, need more goals, and now it's like, I'd just like to be fit and so I can get a few minutes in. So I think the time's come, given that how the midfield has not been functioning properly. If Thiago's not fit, I said it the other week that he should be playing, but he's left-footed. He'd have to be on the left-hand side. So you've got two youngsters then in Stefan and Curtis alongside Jordan Henderson. And you know what? I'm probably going to go for that. Let's be perfectly honest. Anything's going to be better than what's been going on recently. So a bit of legs and a bit of, with Curtis Jones, he's obviously a local lad who will be quite keen to make an impression. So, and if it doesn't work, there's 5 subs. You just sub him.
Yeah, I think there's a good case for that. I think Henderson and Stefan Bajcetic definitely as 2, and then probably I would go maybe Naby Keita on the left in place of Thiago. But which way are you going to go, Rich?
Yeah, I've kind of gone that way, although I'm not actually sold on it, which kind of is a good indicator of where we're at the moment with Liverpool. But Bajcetic has been doing pretty well given the role that's been thrusted upon him, the responsibility. So I can see him continuing. Henderson, we've already covered off, is coming back in on the right, and I can see the argument for Curtis Jones. Just concerned that maybe not seeing enough from him. But I'm not really a big fan of Naby Keita anyway. But I appear to have selected him anyway. I just, when he came with so much promise, Katie, didn't he? And he just hasn't delivered it. So maybe he'd like to do that on Monday, just as a way of apology.
It's his birthday today. Come on. Be nice to him.
Today?
Yeah.
Is it?
Birthday today. Yep.
How
28 today.
Oh,
28.
28. I wish I was 28. Yeah, there we
He's
go.
not finished, he's 28.
These headlines write themselves, don't they? Birthday boy Cater has great weekend. Nets winner in Derby with shot on target from outside the box. He's in. Bajatic, Henderson, Cater.
Good stuff. Right, attack, Dory.
Salah, Nunes, and Elliott. Let's just get to the point there. Elliott deserves to be back in the team. Bit unlucky to get rested, should we say, against Wolves. Gakpo, feel sorry for him. Coming to a team that's not very good. Don't agree necessarily with what Ronald Koeman said. And obviously, Van Nistelrooy's quotes this week were completely made up. So well done to whoever did that. That's assuming the Koeman ones were actually said them. I mean, somebody must be going around just pretending to be, Dutchman and talking about Liverpool players and Everton as well. And yeah, I think Salah, I can't remember. I maybe even said that he shouldn't have played last week, but I may just keep him in. Just keep him in. And Nunes definitely needs to stay in because stuff still happens. He's definitely going to start scoring some goals again. And I think that's the best three at the moment Liverpool have got up front.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And then that would leave you with Jota, Gakpo, and potentially Firmino as well to come off the bench. Rich, is that the same for you or slightly different?
No, it's the same. Salah's not really doing much, but you've got to play him because he's a really good footballer who scores goals, and we could really do with one of them right now. Nunes down the middle, I just think he offers far more of a threat than Gakpo has, and Harvey Elliott, although I did raise a few eyebrows at him playing that position a couple of weeks back when he got moved there. I thought he repaid the faith against Brighton and was very unfortunate not to retain his position for the following match. So, and although I said earlier in the season with Elliott, I thought he had a great personality, was trying really hard, was putting the effort in, but just didn't seem to be able to be producing too much when he was playing in midfield. He has at least got the attitude, the application, and the personality to pick Liverpool up in this current slump. So not just for his efforts in that position, but for his personality as well. I'm happy to see him in there with Jota lurking on the bench, ready to come on and make a difference. Just on what Doyle was saying as well about Jota, about how he can often get the first goal in games. I've not looked at it, but maybe the basis of a future piece. I'll be interested to know how many first goals Nunes has actually scored, because obviously we're talking about he scored 9 or 10 goals for Liverpool, but I don't know how many of them were the first goal or key ones in matches. I'd be interested to see that, and certainly I think we'd all be happy if you could deliver the goods with that on Monday.